It's time now for the week that was. Let's take a look at the top stories that made headlines around the globe this week. Starting with this story, the nation was jolted early on Monday with reports of a failed plan to impeach the governor of Rivers State, Siminalayi Fubara. However, President Bola Tinubu intervened in the political crisis in Rivers State. It happened during the administration's first police council meeting at the State House in Abuja. The enormous clash between the incumbent governor Siminalayi Fubara and his predecessor and Minister of the Federal Capital Territory Nyesom Wike has erupted into a political inferno, threatening to set Rivers State ablaze. The governor of Bauchi State and chairman of the People's Democratic Party Governors Forum, Bala Mohammed, commented on the matter after the council meeting, which was attended by the governor of Rivers State and the minister of the FCT. All right, then. We were just trying to obviously, confirm that sacking, because we do know that initially there was that story that went out that indeed, in trying to still keep it under flush out rather people that they've been able to label as pro-Wike, he was trying to still keep a certain level of authority in regards to that particular event that happened. But I think in all of this, what's really important is that the people don't forget that it's really about the governing of the state. Yeah. I saw a statement that had gone out where the FCT minister had said, "Oh, if you take away my base, then I'm left with nothing." Yeah. And it really speaks to the type of the governance, or when we look at this godfatherism element that's really strikes it or really raises its ugly head when it comes to the terms of politics. You cannot have one leg in Rivers State and one leg, in FCT. You've handed over to the person that has come after you, which is Governor Fubara, and it's up to him to decide how he wants to run the state. Having this back and forth, this clash, doesn't foot well for the people of Rivers State. So there was a call for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to make sure he addresses both of them and see how they can make sure that it doesn't go further than it already is. We saw what happened with the Rivers State, of course, the House of Assembly that was set ablaze. Of course, still allegedly at this point, people are pointing to the former governor. But I want to know what your thoughts are on this particular story.
Well, my thoughts are very clear on it. But first, it's important to highlight that there was no sacking by the governor, Sim Fubara, as was widely insinuated on social media, and he came out clearly to deny it. It is possible that he was thinking about it, or that he might eventually do it, particularly for those that are within his purview, not like the chief judge and stuff like that people are mentioning.
As a sitting governor, he doesn't have the power.
He doesn't have the power. He wouldn't
the
have
chief judge.
No, he doesn't, and he didn't anyway. So this is a clear case, as you indicated, about an overbearing godfather, and of course, it would be uncharitable to call the governor a stooge. But a stooge, in a way, he is, because we know quite clearly that he probably would not have become the governor without former governor and now minister Nyesom Wike. We have seen this kind of a thing all over Nigeria, sadly, in the 24 years plus that we have been on this democratic experiment. We have seen vestiges of it in the same Rivers State before now, clearly in Lagos State, in Kwara State, under Bukola Saraki, and of course in Delta State, At the time, Oyo State was also known for something like this, where Amala politics and Adedibu and all the governors that came up had to pass through him. You can't remove things like this from politics. What is bad, however, is for those who have left the seat, who have left the saddle, to want to continue to determine what happens, to the extent that if you do not have your way, you want to have the governor removed. And you have to understand how important the State House of Assembly is. To get a governor out, that's your first point of call. That's why godfathers always want to hold on to the State House of Assembly. My word to Fubara will be for him to govern well, make your mark, and of course use the same tactics that Wike has always, proposed. Fight for what belongs to you. It wouldn't matter who made you governor. What is important is that you are the elected governor. Rule conscientiously and fight for what belongs to you. That's what Wike will have done.
Definitely.
All right, we proceed. The National Assembly has approved the supplementary budget of 2.1 trillion naira for the rest of the year 2023, as requested by President Bola Tinubu. The approval is, however, subject to harmonization, as the Senate and the House of Representatives versions differed on the 5 billion naira planned to be spent on the presidential yacht. While the Senate approved its purchase, the House rejected it and wants the sum added to the amount budgeted for student loan. Arise correspondent Omo Bazwaye has a report.
The Senate approved the supplementary budget of 2.1 trillion naira after it considered the report of the Standing Committee on Appropriation. The chairman, Solomon Olamilekan, said his committee received input from the leadership of the relevant subcommittees and heads of benefiting ministries, departments, and agencies of government in scrutinizing the details of the budget. Senate subsequently adopted the report, returning it in perfect order to the president, including the controversial plans by President Bola Tinubu to spend big on presidential yacht and sports utility vehicles, SUVs, as well as other cars in the State House and Villa, including the office of the First Lady, an office that is not constitutionally recognized.
Fundamentally, the bill seeks to, among other things, 1, provide additional palliative measures, including the wage award for public servants, the enhanced cash transfer program, which is intended to benefit the most vulnerable members of the society, provide additional funds for critical defense expenditure urgently required for peace and security of lives and property, without which the government economic growth agenda cannot be achieved.
However, the situation is different in the House of Representatives, where lawmakers slightly adjusted the appropriation of the funds when they rejected the proposal to spend 5 billion naira on presidential yacht, but decided to add the money to a new student loan fund, increasing it from 5.5 billion naira to 10.5 billion naira.
As far as we are concerned, we don't have that percentage anymore. We have increased the student loan. If you can recall, student loan was 5 billion naira in the budget, but now we have increased it from 5 to 10 billion so that our students can be able to access that facility in order for them to go to school and to be affordable for them.
While the Senate and the House of Representatives will need to harmonize their position on the presidential yacht and student loan, they were pretty much on the same page on all other areas. A breakdown of the approved budget shows statutory transfer of 18 billion naira to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. A total of 1 trillion naira will serve as recurrent non-debt expenditure, out of which 346 billion is for the Ministry of Defense, 29.6 billion for police formation and command. Others are the Office of the National Security Advisor with 39.6 billion naira. The Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security is allocated 103 billion naira, while 515 billion is earmarked as service-wide votes. The other half of the capital and expenditure framework is the capital component that gives 28 billion naira to the State House, 200 billion naira to the Ministry of Defense, Police Formation and Command, 20.3 billion naira, Office of the National Security Advisor, 10.3 billion naira, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, 97 billion naira, Federal Ministry of Works, 300 billion naira, the Federal Capital Territory Administration, 100 billion naira, and what the National Assembly referred to as capital supplementation of 220.5 billion naira. Omo Bazwaye, Arise News.
Interesting development over the the week, 2.1 trillion supplementary budget. That's in addition to the 21 trillion budget size for 2023 that President Muhammadu Buhari started operating since January. What that means, Sheito, in my opinion, is that the budget size has been increased, of course, to 23 plus. That will be 3 trillion short of what Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as a new president, is proposing for 2024 budget year. We know why there has been so much of noise around what happened. It's the presidential yacht that everybody has been talking about, in addition to the recurrent expenditure contained in that supplementary budget, particularly the vehicles, etc., for the office of the president and for the office of the first lady, which, interestingly, is not captured in the constitution. But we just have to see how things pan out, isn't it, Shaitan? We just have to see how things pan out. A lot of Nigerians will have expected that, given the financial dire straits that we have found ourselves, that maybe the size of the supplementary budget shouldn't have been up to 2.1 trillion, and that a few things could have waited, till the next year's
of the fiscal
budget, particularly the sort of vehicles that we are talking about, vehicles that are not manufactured or assembled in Nigeria, and we have to, use foreign exchange to purchase such vehicles.
I have to kind of just pick up where you've left off, because when we really think about it, the optics don't look good at all. The timing of this supplementary budget feels offensive to the Nigerian people, but the real question is, how will it be funded? Some have said, maybe the answer to that is fuel subsidy. But the truth is, we haven't seen those savings in the way and manner it is reflected in the system. We know that fuel subsidy is gone, but we know that it's not necessarily something that we've been able to actually see. We need more transparency. What exactly is the medium-term expenditure? We're looking at about $1.2 billion of support that is supposed to be coming from the World Bank. It's currently being processed, bringing about 2.1. If we're thinking about 2.1 trillion, we're receiving 1.2 trillion already from the World Bank. But there's already a deficit to finance this year's budget, already an 11 trillion naira deficit. And we know that 97% of the revenue goes already towards debt servicing. This administration has already drawn down about 4 trillion from ways and means. We're still waiting for the CBN to reconcile their accounts. The Monetary Policy Committee meeting that's supposed to have taken place, of course, still hasn't happened. And then when you look at the fact that there are 130 million Nigerians still living in abject poverty, and then you hear this push about 20 billion naira going to the State House. They're talking about a certain billions of naira going to restructure the presidential villa to
and what the assembly calls the capital supplementation.
The capital supplementation.
I've never heard that before.
It really makes you wonder, like, are you really thinking about the Nigerian people? It really seems insensitive, and at least I'm happy that they were able to convert that 5 billion that was supposed to go to the presidential yard, which they've now said is not really a yard.
That's just the House of Reps. Senate has not agreed on that, and in any case, Senator Aline Dume says that that's too late, because the yacht is already delivered, which means that without appropriation, did we order a yacht? That you didn't know how it will be funded. If Senate rejects it, how are you going to pay for it? Exactly.
Yeah. But, that's enough about that. We'll continue to monitor that story. But moving on to the next story, the proposed strike by the Nigerian Labour Congress in Imo State took a different turn after heavily armed policemen arrived at the NLC Secretariat and arrested the president of the Congress, Joe Ajero. He was later released. Arise correspondent Punarinmam Benjamin reports on the developments in Owerri.
The Nigerian Labour Congress had planned to shut down Imo State through a proposed strike action. The union had scheduled the following. The protest strike action to take place unfailingly on Wednesday, November 1st. The action be total across all the sectors. Imo State be totally shut down, air, land and sea. However, Owerri Airport to remain open till 12 noon before it is shut down. Unions embark on heightened mobilization. After all of this had been carefully planned out, the union converged on the NLC State Secretariat in Owerri to start mobilizing to hit the streets when the unexpected happened. Heavily armed security operatives arrived and whisked the president of the NLC to an unknown destination. According to reports, journalists were not spared as some were beaten and taken into custody by policemen too. The union is accusing the government of owing workers and pensioners over 42 months arrears, declaring thousands of workers, pensioners, ghost workers and pensioners, not properly implementing the national minimum wage, trying to use the courts to stifle a lawful protest, attempting to break the ranks of the unions in the state, continually interfering in the affairs of the State Council, hiring talks to vandalize Congress State Secretariat, observing in breach agreements the government voluntarily entered into with Congress as far back as 2021. Imo is now charged with a major industrial action. Now, the union says President Joe Ajaero has been referred for ophthalmic investigation, a head brain scan, a full body scan, and cervical spine therapy, among other investigations, after being badly beaten before he was taken on a neck collar with wheels all over his skin to the Federal Medical Center, Owerri.
He should have issued another order, ex parte.
Yes, ex parte.
You know, so they kept that letter. They kept that thing they posted to them.
Okay.
That he said, whether do I know that I should this thing they can prosecute me about? I said, well, it is the same court that granted this order that can institute a contempt charge.
Yes.
You know, you can't just now start prosecuting.
The NLC also says that Ajaero's phones, money and other personal effects were taken away from him. Punaraman Benjamin, Arise News.
I mean, very heartbreaking news coming in there. I definitely condemn any attack on any Nigerian citizen, any physical violence. It's lawless. It shows as impunity, criminality, and rascality. And I'm hoping that in this situation, they are able to find those responsible and make sure that they hold them accountable. But what really stood out for me is the fact that they said that he's in critical condition and he may be flown abroad. Yeah,
sadly.
Sadly, for this. Just curious to know, isn't there any hospital in Owerri or even in Nigeria
he's not based in Owerri. I mean, he's the national president.
Wherever he's based.
I mean, I'm sure what is important is, first and foremost, is is the life of the president of the NLC, where he seeks treatment should be secondary at this point. What is important is to condemn that bestiality, that abnormality, that criminality. And I think that they should be called out from the CP in Imo State to the governor himself, because if body language in all of these has not been believable, has not been very complimentary at all. This is not the time that Nigerians should be witnessing this sort of criminality. It is bad, especially in Imo State, where we know that the politics there is rather crude. We know that this is about the elections that are coming on November the 11th. But again, things can be done, far better. Definitely. This stands, condemnable, and I think that it will not repeat itself.